Welcome to the Homeschool Show from North Carolinians for Home Education. Our purpose and goal here is to help you homeschool with confidence and joy. I'm your host, Matthew McDill, and we have back in the studio John Lewis as our co-host.
Hey, Matthew,
up,
thanks
John?
for having me. Hey, by the way, I got a question for you.
Okay.
How does Darth Vader like his toast?
Something about dark? I don't know.
On the dark side.
On the
there
dark
you go.
side.
There's your dad joke for the day. All right.
We have a really exciting and important show today.
Absolutely.
I'm excited about this.
Special
Tell us
guests
about
too.
it.
So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, this episode is brought to you by Summit Ministries today, where your teens can learn to own their faith. And so today we're going to switch things up and have our homeschool conversation segment. First, we're going to be talking with Dr. Jeff Myers from Summit Ministries. And Dr. Myers is one of our featured speakers at the Thrive Conference this year.
That's right.
And so we have a lot of important homeschool news as well today. The Division of Non-Public Education's virtual record review meetings is one of our topics, and also DNPE's report to the North Carolina Joint Legislative Oversight Committee and the media's coverage of that report. So, Matthew, I want to hand it off.
Sure. I am really excited about coming to the conference this year.
Yeah, me too.
And of course, one of our featured speakers, and more importantly, one of our keynote speakers, is Dr. Jeff Myers from Summit Ministries. He's the president of Summit Ministries. As an educator and entrepreneur, Dr. Myers has become one of America's most respected authorities on youth leadership development. Through his speaking engagements and media appearances, Dr. Myers has become a fresh voice offering humor and insight from a Christian worldview. I hope he's more funny than you are, John. He is the author of 14 books, including Understanding the Faith, Understanding the Times, and Understanding the Culture. Dr. Myers holds a Doctor of Philosophy degree from University of Denver. Jeff, his wife Stephanie, and their family live in Colorado. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey, it's great to be with you, Matthew.
So glad you
John.
could be.
Hey, Jeff, how are you? Now, Jeff,
Great.
You had a dad joke too, right?
Well, my kids have grown up. They were homeschooled when they were little, but now their age is 25 to 18. And one of my daughters is a helicopter pilot. So it's really my only dad joke, but I can't wait for her to have children so she can be a helicopter mom.
There you go.
There it is.
So, as we were just talking about, you've been to the Thrive Conference for a lot of years. And back when you were just getting started,
Back
John?
when I only had one hair on my chin.
That's right.
That's right.
He remembers going, and I was sharing with you guys that I just heard an amazing testimony of somebody whose life has really been impacted, not only by you speaking there, but by Summit Ministries. And so I'm looking forward to sharing that testimony on the show, and we're looking forward to seeing you at the conference.
Well, I can't wait to be there. It's been a number of years, John. I think you said it was 13 years when we met at the
That was my first time there, and then we met you. I actually got the chance to speak to you several years ago. I don't know how many that's been though. You were there the last time, and I gave you some CDs before you hit the road to get
I'm
on
sure
your
he
plane.
listened to all of them.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Okay, yes, yeah. Because I had a tour. I don't know where I was flying. It might have been Charlotte or someplace that was quite a ways away.
You had
but
to leave quick.
This is such a great conference. So I'm speaking at 4 homeschooling conferences this year. I've spoken at quite a few of them around the country, 30 or 40 of them over the years in different places. And NCHE puts together an incredible event. The Thrive Conference is so fantastic. There's great energy there. If you are thinking about homeschooling, it's a great place to go. If you're already homeschooling and you're thinking, oh boy, we're getting ready for summer, but fall is coming and I don't know exactly what we're going to do, or there's practical advice, and then there's inspirational content, and then there are a lot of people there offering different things. Yeah. It's one of my favorites. That's truly great. Is, and I don't say that to everybody.
Well,
it truly is one of the best conferences in America.
It is a great conference, and some of the best sessions you'll go to will be Dr. Myers sessions as well. So don't miss those if you head to the NCHE Thrive Conference this year.
So, as you're doing all the speaking these days, do you have a favorite topic, one that's fresh and exciting to you, or that a longtime staple that's one of your favorites?
You know, my thought on homeschooling conferences is not how do you teach math, how do you teach spelling, things like that, but why do we do all of those things? And I think most people who homeschool would say, you know, it wasn't that my child's math instruction was a little bit off, or they weren't spelling quite as well as I think they should. So that's why we're homeschooling. It's always something deeper. Like I want my child to have a stronger sense of purpose. I want my child to be able to thrive. I want them to, in school, for a lot of children, it's not a safe place to really thrive. I want my children to have the best possible education. I want them to be able to pursue their own interests. But ultimately, it comes down to, guys, I want my child to have a sense of purpose in life. I want them to know they're here for a reason. They can make a difference in the world. And that's how I'm going to be spending my time when I'm at the event. There will be plenty of workshops on how to do a better job teaching math and writing and so forth. But my sessions will be for parents and for teens who are wondering, how do I know that what I believe is true? And how do I find God's will? Or how do I get a sense of purpose? That's where the young adults I'm working with these days really are. 75% of them say they struggle to find a sense of purpose that gives them meaning in life. And we can talk about that openly, and we can get breakthroughs.
Every year we try to, we do have what we call the teen track, right? So this is a special set of workshops, and that's what you're going to be providing for us this year. And so I can just see these teens right in this area where they're thinking about who they are, who they're becoming, what they want to be, and their purpose. I see that one of these, the titles of one of those is just as you said, Finding Life Purpose, Biblical Steps to Living with Confidence. Can we get a little sneak preview on that one?
Yeah, well, of course. I always hesitate with that title because I think some people might be thinking, oh, he's just going to quote Bible verses at us. Here we go again. But the truth is, the Bible, if it's what it claims to be, is a special revelation from the one who made us to all of us. So there are principles we can find in the scripture about who God is, how he has made us, and what it is that we can do with our lives that will bring blessing and flourishing to others and give a sense of purpose to us. And one of the key principles that I'll be teaching in that session is how to discover your design. So I have this belief, and this comes from working with tens of thousands of young people in the last several years in our work at Summit Ministries, that one of the key questions we overlook when we're doing vocational testing and personality testing and things like that is, what are the kinds of things that return energy to you and make you feel more alive?
Great question.
Right. What are those? Yeah. What are the, and some people say, follow your passion or whatever. It's not quite that. It's more, what are the things that you cannot not do? For me, I cannot not teach. If we weren't doing this right now, I would be doing a TV interview or radio interview, or I'm editing a book or something. I'm just teaching. It's not because I can, it's because I can't not. I know that makes people crazy to say it that way grammatically, but that's one of the principles, because there are some specific questions that you can ask yourself to begin reflecting on what that is that really lights your fire.
I can identify with that.
Yeah. Let's hone in on that word confidence just for a second. I love that confidence word is in there too. Why is that important?
Well, we live in a time when people honestly are afraid. We did a poll last week. We do a lot. We're not a polling company, but I do a lot of polling because I want to get a sense of what's going on in this cultural moment. 42% of the people in the poll, so they're afraid to talk about what they think because they might be canceled or dismissed or shamed by someone else.
Right.
A third of people said they're afraid they'll lose their job if they talk about their beliefs. So what's the solution to that? Obviously, that's a sad place for Americans to be, because we're supposed to have free speech according to our Constitution. But the truth is, it's fear that stops us from really making a difference. The number one command in Scripture is do not fear. That is all throughout the Old Testament, the New Testament. Jesus talked about that. The apostles talked about that. We could use a new dose of courage. And if you're confident that what you believe is true, and you're confident that you've been made in God's image, you're designed with a purpose, it begins to change the trajectory of your life.
That's right. Well, I hope that we can really give our audience an inspiration and an encouragement that we want to be able to release and to send off our kids with boldness, with confidence, and not with fear. And so, of course, that has to do with us discipling them and pouring into them and answering these why questions. So I love that we're going to have these resources. So parents, you can come listen to these. Here's another great title that is one for the keynote: Standing in the Land of Giants, 4 Ways to Grow Our Children as Leaders. So how about a little bit of encouragement from that one as well, so we can not only be encouraged now, but be encouraged to come?
The title comes from Caleb in the Old Testament. A lot of people know the Bible story. Even people who don't regularly follow Scripture know the story of Joshua and Caleb and 10 other spies going into the promised land to spy it out. And they came back and they said, they are like giants. We are like grasshoppers compared to these people. We can't go in. Joshua and Caleb said, we must go in. God said we should go. This is our land. He's promised it to us. But the 10 other spies who were fearful won the day. And so the people decided they weren't going to go into the promised land. They missed God's promise because they were afraid. Well, fast forward 45 years. The children of Israel are finally in the promised land. Joshua's dividing up all of the land among all of the tribes. Caleb comes before him and says, I'm 85 years old, and I am as strong and ready for battle as the day we went in to spy out the land. Now I want you to give me my inheritance. And Joshua asked him what land he wanted. And he said, and he named a specific place, which is the land where the giants still were.
Nice.
Think about that for a minute. For 45 years, he had prepared himself to fight in the land of giants. He was going to stand if it was the very last thing he did. And that's the attitude that I want to have. The giants are not other people in our case. The giants are fear or indecision or a belief that truth doesn't exist, cynicism, all of those things that would set us aside from living really meaningful lives. So that's what we'll be talking about in that keynote session.
That's exciting. And of course, this is all of these ideas are what Summit Ministries is about, right? You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's what we do. We're encouraging parents whose kids are between 16 and 22 years of age to consider having them come study with us for 2 weeks. In these 2-week sessions, we help them find answers to their most pressing questions, help them find a sense of purpose, help them be involved in a community of young people who want to honor God in what they do with their lives. And I think one of the beauties of the Summit program, it was visiting with one of my former students who you probably know, Ryan Dobson. His father's Dr. James Dobson. And he and I were on Dr. Dobson's broadcast the other day. And he said, when I went to Summit, he said, I was a little bit afraid that I might find that what my parents believe is not true, because everybody in the culture says it's not true. It's not true. And I was a little afraid they might be right. When I came to Summit, I gained confidence not only that I can find the answers and that it is possible to find truth and I can know God, but I also began to develop a new respect for my parents and what they believed. So it really helps bring families together when students have a chance to come away and study with some of our top Christian thought leaders, authors, philosophers, theologians, economists, but all of whom love Jesus with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength. And it's a great opportunity for mentoring a life-changing 2-week program.
That's great.
Yeah, I really recently heard some statistics about how important it is to have someone other than parents outside of the home discipling and reinforcing faith. How important that is in contributing to the steadfastness and faithfulness of those believers as they go forward. Because, in the homeschool community, we make such a big deal of the parents and the home because we should. But to know that we have the church, we have these other ministries that are really helping to reinforce that is such a critical thing. It makes huge difference in the life of these students. So I hope again, first of all, that if you haven't registered, if you're not haven't planned yet for sure to come to the conference, that you will, that you'll keep in mind that we have this teen track with Dr. Jeff Myers, that you're going to learn about Summit Ministries while you're there, and that you're going to learn about these other opportunities that are going to be fantastic, because you want your kids to be prepared for life, for their ministry, to do that thing that they can't not do. And we can help them find that thing, right?
Matthew, I love the way you put that, because I do think that everybody really is in a ministry. We're all religious. Even atheists are religious. Everybody's religious. The question is, do we know why we believe what we believe? And is it something that's actually livable in our lives? So at Summit Ministries, not very many of the students we prepare go into preaching or into missions, but they are in many ways missionaries, because they're going into science and technology and politics and business and education and the military, all these different areas, and rising as leaders because they know the truth.
That's right. Well, we've been talking to Dr. Jeff Myers, president of Summit Ministries. You can learn more at summit.org. And we really appreciate you joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple months.
I can't wait to be there.
All right. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jeff.
Before we go to homeschool news, we want to just take a moment and tell you a little bit more about Summit Ministries.
Yeah. So questions, does God exist? Why do bad things happen to good people? Can we even know what the truth is? How does this give meaning to my life? Today's young adults face more challenges than ever, and at Summit Ministries, they are equipped and supported to embrace God's truth and live lives filled with purpose. The time for their faith to be strengthened is now. Give your student an unshakable faith as they prepare to graduate from high school. Get discounts, view dates, and details online at summit.org/NCHE.
All right, now let's get into some homeschool news. We have a couple of really important items today, both of them related specifically to the Division of Non-Public Education. We shorthand that DNPE, and so we'll be saying DNPE a lot here instead of Division of Non-Public Education. The DNPE has begun emailing every homeschool that has operated for more than 2 years, stating that a DNPE representative will be conducting virtual record review meetings. So the email says, quote, DNPE encourages you to participate as the North Carolina statutes governing non-public schools, and then it lists those statutes, require all non-public schools to make available their records upon request. An invitation to attend a record review meeting is such a request, end quote. Administrators are asked to follow a link and make an appointment for this virtual inspection. So the way that this sounds, right, the implication here is that DNPE is indicating that this is required by law. However, the law says, quote, all records shall be made available subject to, and then it quotes the law again, GS 11-5C 174.13, at the principal office of such school at all reasonable times for annual inspection, end quote. So we, NCHE, has always understood the law to mean that any inspection of records other than inspections that take place at the homeschool are voluntary on the part of the homeschool chief administrator. Therefore, NCHE believes that this request is not mandated by North Carolina statute. So again, the law requires, in our understanding, for them to come to the homeschool location, and certainly that doesn't mean they have to come inside, but you meet them at the door, and they can request those pieces of information. So our understanding is that this information is a voluntary request.
Right. But even though it's voluntary, NCHE, even though we differ from DNPE in that we believe it's not mandatory, I can't speak today, we highly recommend that you voluntarily make an appointment for a virtual inspection for the following reasons. Many homeschools have failed to follow the law in that they have moved or quit homeschooling without notifying DNPE. Therefore, DNPE records are inaccurate, and some legislators are pressuring DNPE to improve the accuracy of the data. Federal education funding is parceled out to each North Carolina county based on the total number of students, public, private, and homeschool, enrolled in that county. Special needs homeschool students can take advantage of programs that are supported with federal funding. And then a third reason is a successful implementation of this program will give DNPE greater credibility and will reduce the likelihood that lawmakers will attempt to add more regulations to homeschools. And Matthew, my understanding is that North Carolina is a great state for homeschooling in terms of the laws. There's different states have different regulations.
Right, and we don't have the least amount of regulations,
Sure.
but we have a very free and reasonable amount of regulations here. And see, here's the basic view. We feel like if we help DNPE succeed at enforcing the law that exists, then we won't be facing new regulations and new legislation. That's kind of the philosophy there. So we want to help them out and give them information. At the same time, if you're not comfortable with participating in the virtual meetings, you'll be given the option of emailing the requested information to DNPE. Another option DNPE may not publicize is to log into your account with DNPE and update your school records. Then notify them of your update via email. We're not aware of any homeschool that has actually been closed because they've declined to participate in the inspection of records virtually by email or by any other form.
Have you talked to anybody who's actually been through it?
Yes, I have. Okay. I had a family who made the appointment, got on to the Zoom call or the whatever the video call was. And interestingly, they asked some questions, but at the point that the records were to be shown, the parent was ready to scan them in or send them or whatever, and the person said, no, just hold them up to the camera. I mean, so you don't even have to turn them in.
Right.
It's just kind of like to show, hey, I've got my forms. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And they said, thank you very much for showing us that. And that was real quick and easy.
We had some friends that said the exact same thing. It was just a very simple thing, and it was just to verify that they had them. They didn't even demand to see the details of them. So our next story is that on March 8th, the DNPE gave a report to the North Carolina Joint Legislative Oversight Committee. Later that day, Laura Leslie from WRAL released a story titled Homeschooling Oversight. With over 100,000 students in homeschool, North Carolina lawmakers consider increased tracking. The headline related to the video story was Lawmakers Propose New Oversight for Homeschooling.
So when you hear headlines like that, lawmakers propose new oversight for homeschooling, how do you think the homeschool families like that?
We don't.
Immediately, we had a lot of folks just express concern and ask the question, hey, what's going on here, And of course, Laura Leslie contacted me, and I was interviewed for the video portion and for the article. Okay. And as I mentioned to her, one of our primary objectives is to protect the rights of parents to homeschool in North Carolina. That's what we do. And right now, that means that we're not going to be promoting or supporting any legislative change at all, even if that means getting more information that's not already included. Now, this story, I believe, has created a little bit of unnecessary alarm by the way the headlines ran. And so
I can imagine so, too. I mean, I think that it would be natural because most homeschooling families, by and large, most homeschooling families are doing more than what's required. Yeah. And I think that their children's academic and emotional and mental success is all important to those families.
That's exactly right. The NCHE's legislative committee, headed by the Law and Policy Director Spencer Mason, immediately upon this story was actively monitoring the situation. And the bottom line is we don't need to be alarmed right now, and here's why. We spoke to the North Carolina Senate and House members on the joint committee, and they have assured us that there will be no new bills filed at this time to add regulation to North Carolina homeschools.
That's good.
Furthermore, the House co-chairman of the joint committee is a homeschool father, and the Senate chairman is known to be a strong school choice advocate. Following the conclusion of the session on Tuesday, NCHE checked the legislative record for all bills that were filed and found none to contain any items germane to homeschools. There will be little to no opportunity to add anything until the next session opens May 4th. The Legislative Committee will continue to monitor the proceedings. You can count on us to be ever vigilant to keep you informed. And I would just add in here that you want to make sure that you're getting our information. We have a weekly Wednesday email, homeschool news, that you want to get. If you go to nche.com/email-subscription, you can sign up for that email.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us this week. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love for you to send your questions and your feedback to the Homeschool Show at nche.com. Please help other people find this show by subscribing, rating, leaving a review on the app or the podcast, YouTube, whatever version you use to check it out. And if you think this show will be helpful to you or to your friends or family members, please let them know about it. To learn more about how to subscribe as a podcast and on YouTube, visit nche.com/The Homeschool Show.
That's right. Until next time, continue to homeschool with confidence and joy.
And we'll see you next week.